All right, June 11th. Stocks didn't go down today because it's Saturday. So I didn't want to make today's video, but sometimes you don't feel like getting out of bed. Sometimes you don't feel like doing work, and me not making this video doesn't really impact anything or anyone because I get maybe 10 or 20 views per day. But the one thing it does impact is me as a person, knowing that I could have done something that I said I was going to do and I didn't do it. So holding yourself accountable, that's a very big thing. All right, 18 to 19. This was when I first got into culinary school. I'll talk about fundamentals of cookery. That's the first cooking class you take. Now, at this point, I had no experience at all. It was just washing dishes, doing the salads, doing the fryer, and then other than that, my whole cooking experience is just like cutting spam at home and microwaving things from Costco and the few little things you learn in cooking school. So I basically knew nothing, and this was the first time I've been in school where I was surrounded by people who were, most of them were at least like three or 4 years older than me, up to like triple my age. There's some people with gray hair in my class, but I was the youngest person in the class, and like even the other people who came out of high school and whatever, they were usually 1 year older than me because they took like math classes and whatever, but I went straight into the cooking. So every day you had to get up at 7, you had to be there, the class starts at 7 o'clock, and it was the highest fail rate class in the whole school because the teacher was very strict and you don't know what you're doing at all. So the dropout rate in that class was probably like, from the beginning to end, only maybe like 60% of the people pass. So it's a hard class. So like I said, there's a big workload. The teacher demos it, then you have to replicate it yourself. And just like when I was doing the dishwasher, salad, fryer job, it was very try to be as efficient as possible. But then the thing that I did was unless you actually knew what you're doing, you could probably get it done within the time that you were allotted, which is like 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock or whatever, because 2 hours is cleaning and 1 hour is like class time. But you could get it done if you knew what you're doing, but most of the people didn't know what they're doing. So you could come in as early as like 5 o'clock or 4:30 whenever the teacher got there. He was there every day early to let students in. And a lot of people went the route of when they fall behind, then they come in early. But then it's always like you're playing from behind, and it's not fun to play from behind. So from the very first day or first week of us starting to cook, on the first day of the week, I would come in early. So if you think about the normal hours somebody spent in the kitchen was 12 hours. Then they came in 2 hours because they fell behind. So if you think about their mindset the whole time, they were on time, behind, and trying to recover. But my thought process was, why not just come in early on the first day to get ahead, and then you just stay ahead the whole time. So even though the other person spent 2 hours on the 5th day and I spent 2 hours on the first day, I was ahead, and if I messed something up, I wasn't behind, I was just on time. So playing from the front is a lot easier than playing from the back as far as pressure and performance. So that was like my mindset in fundamentals is, and you can apply it to everything else in your life too. Get shit done as fast as possible, as early as possible. Don't put it off, and you don't even have to think about it. You don't have to think like if you spend all day dreading about doing laundry, like, oh, I have to do laundry and whatever, then how much time do you spend in the whole day or the whole week or whatever thinking like, oh, I have to do it, when to actually do it takes 5 minutes. So Yeah. So, this culinary school, and the first year into it, I I never did any competitions before, but every 2 years at the school, there was a culinary salon where basically they had master ACF certified master chefs fly out and judge, and basically everyone in the pastry classes were forced to enter because they had to make sculptures like chocolate and sugar sculptures anyways, and they just happened to put it up. But for most of the other classes, it was optional. You could do like cold glazed platter, hot foods. There's all different types of categories, but the biggest category was hot foods, which is basically you have like 70 minutes or something to go in the kitchen, prep your dish, cook your dish, put it up for the judges. You had to make like 2 dishes, one for the judges and one for the show. So 1 year into culinary school, I figured I'll give it a try, and I made this chicken roulade dish. It was a very Chinese dish. It was Chinese flavors, but it's kind of like the food that I would do now, but a lesser form of it. So I guess I do cook the same way. It's just I have more knowledge and experience now. So I ended up getting a silver. Like I said in the other video, it's not silver is second place and gold is first place. It's point system brackets. So if you get between a 80 or a 90, you get a silver, and if you get 91 or above or whatever, it's gold. But actually the brackets are a little higher. That's not the brackets, but like nobody could get gold and everyone could get silver and below, or 20 people can get gold. I think that year nobody got gold. Everyone only got silvers, and they don't tell you your points, so you don't know who who did better than everyone else. So that was my first competition. I learned a lot. I learned my execution wasn't that good back then, and yeah, that was my first competition. And this isn't really relevant over here, but this is throughout the next three segments. I used to joke that I was a professional loser, because the definition of a professional is you get paid to do something. And because I entered so many competitions, I always got like second and third place. Like from here all the way to the very last time I did a competition for school, I was always second or third place. So I'd always get the consolation prize. And I got so many scholarships that all the scholarships that I won, I got more money than my tuition cost. So when I went to school, I made money off of it. How much time we have left? 2 minutes. All right, we can talk about my second cooking job now. So a couple of months after I was washing dishes at that place, I started culinary school. That's when I realized I wanted to try to do higher end food. And back then I didn't know I didn't know the big names, and I didn't know the fancy restaurants and whatever. But just when you're small, the name that always came up was Sam Choi, and there was a Sam Choi restaurant nearby. So he didn't even own it anymore. He sold it at that point, and it was going out of business. I didn't know any of that, but I went in. They weren't hiring, but I went in. I dropped the resume, and long story short, they hired me. And yeah, there was a lot of convicts that worked there, and yeah, there wasn't anybody young, and everyone was like rough and gruff and older and all that stuff. So that was interesting, and a funny story. I remember this one time I was just working, and then the chef like sternly comes over to me. He's like, "Hey, come here." I follow him into a storage room, and he starts like wailing on me with you fucking spilled something, and you have to clean it up, and why are you so careless and all that. That somebody spilled oil on the ground, and I was just like taking it. I was like, yes, sorry, but he kept going, and it came to a point that like I started tearing up, and then after he finished yelling, he was like, what do you have to say about this? And I said, I didn't do it. I don't even use oil. I wasn't working the line. I was a prep cook. Because I think he assumed it was me because I'm the one 17, 18-year-old and everyone else is like older and experienced. But I didn't even touch oil, and he just went off on me. So that's a lesson that I learned that I never want to do to anyone else, is give the benefit of the doubt, and then you can roast them afterwards. But that's after you give them an opportunity to rectify it. If they do it again, then you can wail on them, but don't assume. So yeah, I was prepping on one side for like maybe a couple months, and then they opened the beer garden next door, and all the food came out of that one restaurant, but there was a separate line that wasn't being used. So he moved me over to be the lead line cook over there, and I called a bunch of my culinary student classmates, and it was a whole student run line. It was me and two other people. I was the expo, and it would be stuff like simple stuff like ribs and nachos and that kind of stuff, but it was very interesting because I had so little experience, and I had to manage these other two people, and it was my responsibility to make sure the line got prepped and all that stuff. So that was I guess that was my first and my last role as management until I opened my restaurants. All my other jobs, I was just a line cook. I didn't tell anybody what to do, but that was my only job that I actually told people what to do. So yeah, that's me, 18 to 19 years old. See you guys tomorrow.